Well, hello again, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Gamecast Radio Sports Talk. I am Tim Kernan, and Mike Freshwater is not alongside me today. However, Mike is joining us via the Gamecast Radio hotline. Mike, are you with us?
I am here on the hotline.
Well, glad to have you, Mike. And folks, we're doing a little midweek edition of Gamecast Radio Sports Talk this week. Mike and I will be unable to do a show on the weekend, so we thought we'd throw one in real quick here during the week. Mike, probably going to be a short show, but there were some things that I wanted to cover this week, and I didn't want to wait 2 weeks to do. I thought we would start off by maybe going over the Super Bowl a little bit, get your reaction to that, and see what your feelings are on how that game kind of played out this past Sunday.
Yeah, well, it went pretty much as I expected, Tim. In fact, I put a little bit of money behind my predictions and came out ahead. I told you on Saturday, don't bet against Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I did not, and won some money. What a game. It was really exciting. The first half, not so much. Kind of boring, really. But the second half made up for that, especially the overtime there. It was a tremendous finish. You know, they called it one of the best games. I would say maybe one of the best second halves ever. But I think the Chiefs' experience, Andy Reid's experience, and just the elite, performance by Patrick Mahomes was the difference in the game. And but it was a fun game, very entertaining, and I enjoyed every minute of it right down to the end.
Absolutely. You can never count him out. I thought in the first half, both defenses played very well. I thought each team kind of held each other's offenses in check a little bit.
Yep.
We did have some mistakes. Both teams turned the ball over. And I thought that was that kind of affected the first half a little bit in terms of it was kind of stale. I totally agree with you. Both teams were, I think they were out there competing, but I again, to go back to my original point, I think that the defenses on both sides of the ball were just playing very well in that first half.
Yeah, they did. I think the Chiefs came in there with a little bit of an underrated defense. I think it was really kind of the strength of their team, all season, really. This offense had struggled. But they were they made some adjustments and kind of got things a little bit more aggressive there in the second half, put a little bit more pressure on Brock Purdy, forced him to get rid of some passes probably a little earlier than he wanted to. And you got to give the Chiefs and their defensive coaching staff a lot of credit for making those adjustments. And then the Chiefs came out offensively and started doing some things that they had not done in the first half. And Mahomes threw the ball, almost 50 times. And down the stretch there, I felt like they threw a single play. Kelsey ended up being the leading receiver in terms of yardage. But it was quite a night. And the Chiefs now, you have to start talking about them, especially if they win again next year for the third year in a row. You have to start talking about them in the same breath. You talked about the New England, the Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, New England Patriots, because you win it 3 years in a row, you're in the dynasty conversation.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, without a doubt, if that were to happen, but I think even now you might want to consider him that. But we'll get back to that point. But again, slow start. Both defenses played great in the first half. I thought both quarterbacks were phenomenal. I thought Brock Purdy kind of ensconced himself as being, a very good quarterback. I don't know if you would agree with me on that or not, Mike, but I think he is everything but Mr. Irrelevant, which is what the player that is drafted last is called, and that was him. He was drafted last when he came into the NFL, but I thought he played a very good game, Mike. It didn't look like he was falling to his nerves. I thought he really played well, and I thought he made some great passes. He was putting it in some tight spots, but doing a very good job.
Yeah, 23 for 38, 255 yards, a quarterback rating of 89.3, a touchdown. Got sacked one time. Statistically, very respectable, but not in the same range or area that Mahomes ended
No.
up 34 for 46 for 333 yards, two touchdowns. He had that one interception early, did get sacked three times, but he had almost a 100 quarterback rating, and that really, I mean, basically that was the difference in the game, really, the quarterback play between the two. Purdy plays way, 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 way over his draft status, right, where he was drafted. I think he's a solid quarterback, but Mahomes is in a league of his own right now, and kind of hard to beat him out.
Yeah, no question. He is so good, and it's almost like in some games he just waits to see what he has to do. And then when he is faced with that particular situation, he just goes out and executes. And I can think of, in particular, on that last drive, I believe they had 4th and 1, and he took off and got the first down and picked up, way more than he needed to get the first down. But, Mike, he just makes plays when he has to, and he comes through in the clutch.
Yeah, he was sacked three times, but he still ended up with 66 yards rushing.
Yeah.
On 9 carries. That's pretty good. He had that 22-yard run, which was spectacular. He's not like electric fast. He just, like you said, I think he picks the spots and can see the field really well and kind of knows when it's the right time to take off. And much like what Joe Burrow did when he was leading the Bengals to the Super Bowl, just the timing is just really, really good, and they just know kind of instinctively when to take off and go and how far they can get, and it was really effective on Sunday for sure.
Yeah, and I thought the 49ers really kind of helped out KC on that muffed punt. When I first saw the play, I thought that the receiver, the punt returner, made a mistake and went after the ball, but he had to because it had hit the foot of a teammate. So he knew he had to cover it up, and he couldn't do it. And KC got the ball, and I think it was the very next play they scored. So 49ers absolutely did him a favor there.
That was a huge play, and in hindsight, maybe had he literally just fallen on the ball instead of trying to pick it up,
yeah,
that might have made a difference. But those guys aren't used to those kinds of situations. They don't practice them, I'm sure, and it doesn't happen all that often. And of course, the Chiefs are down there and they recovered it, and it was just an absolutely huge play in the game. Special teams was big for both teams. The field goal kickers were good, and but that play really turned the tide and made the difference in the game. Had the 49ers been able to field that punt and maybe just make some headway and punt it back to Kansas City, who knows what would have happened. But that was huge. There's no doubt about it. That's absolutely huge.
Yeah, it was. Both teams, I think the 49ers did it in the first half, and I think it was the first half also. They kind of fumbled getting close to scoring a touchdown. I know McCaffrey did, and for some reason his name is escaping me, but the running back for KC. But they both fumbled. So there were critical errors. I thought it evened out a little bit, but as we were just talking about, that muffed punt was absolutely huge in the game, as you stated.
Yeah, McCaffrey fumbled and Isaiah Pacheco fumbled. Both of them in really big spots. But, those kind of like cancel each other, if you will.
Yeah.
That muffed punt, that special teams play, what was the difference? Absolutely huge. And, we talk about this all the time. The teams that don't turn it over win games.
Yeah.
And, that was, special teams is a big part of the game, equal parts, offense, defense, special teams. And the Chiefs were the benefactors of a mistake that the 49ers made right there and capitalize on it. But I'll tell you what, and I don't know if we're going to go there or not, but the very end of that game was extremely interesting for me because I thought, and it said most people, that the Chiefs were crazy for not to call timeout when they got that fresh set of downs just inside the 5-yard line with about 40 seconds left. They let the clock run all the way down. Unbeknownst to me and probably most of America, they were just going to put another 15 minutes up on the clock. It was going to be like a quarter changeover.
Yeah.
And Romo mentioned that during the broadcast, but we had never seen that. I don't know if that was new this year or what. The time was not going to run out of Kansas City. The Chiefs might have run out of downs, but they were not going to run out of time. And I think the fact that they did that, kind of caught San Francisco a little bit off guard. The 49ers couldn't substitute. The Chiefs ran the clock all the way down and then, hiked it with 7 or 8 or 9 seconds left, whatever it was, and Nicole Harbin was wide open. But I think there was some confusion on the 49ers sideline and out on the field when that all started to develop. And, again, credit Andy Reid and the Chiefs and that coaching staff for being prepared probably for that situation and knowing exactly what they were going to do.
Absolutely. I mean, absolutely, because, the rules as stated for the Super Bowl are different than what happens during the regular season. And I totally agree with you. I'm not sure.
You can't have a tie. You can't have a tie.
Yeah. I don't think the 49ers, they probably knew about it, but you're right. They probably really didn't discuss it because how often, do you go into overtime? But yeah, absolutely. I thought the advantage right there for KC without a doubt.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And the play call actually was a brilliant play call. Andy Reid is maybe not now, but kind of was underrated a little bit. But he's right up there, and he's young enough, only 65, I think. That if he coaches a little bit while longer, he could theoretically catch Bill Belichick. It's quite the impressive career that he's had.
Absolutely. With him and Mahomes, I think Mahomes makes everybody around him better. Certainly that was the way that Tom Brady was, considered just the type of player that makes his teammates better. And those are the kind of players, Mike, that just absolutely just take their teams to a higher level. You saw Tom Brady do it. You're seeing Mahomes do it. I think Burrow has done it a little bit, although he seems to get injured, but that's a discussion for another day. But definitely, I think you have to consider KC, up there with, the 49ers of the past, certainly the Patriots, maybe the Steelers, and even the Cowboys. But they're moving into some pretty highfalutin territory.
Pat Mahomes is 28 years old. Has won 3 Super Bowl championships and 3 Super Bowl MVPs. 28.
It is crazy.
It's maybe not that much of a risk here, but if he stays healthy and he could do a lot of damage over the next probably 10 years.
Yeah.
He might have to evolve his game a little bit as he gets older, but to think that he's only 28 years old and with 3 Super Bowls under his belt already is as good as he is right now. It's insane.
Mike, before we move on from the Super Bowl, just wanted to go over one more thing. I wanted to get your thoughts on Travis Kelce's, I would call it kind of an insubordinate type of behavior when he bumped into his coach and Andy Reid. I had a hard time with that. I realized that, everybody's adrenaline is really running at that point. And it seems like Andy Reid kind of blew it off a little bit and didn't have a problem with it. But what are your thoughts on what happened there on the sideline?
Went way over the line.
I agree.
Way over the line. And I think I've heard him. He has apologized that way. And
well, that's good.
So much has admitted that he did cross the line. But that's just out of control, totally out of control. It's one thing to go up to the coach and get a little bit heated with a conversation and complain about whatever he was complaining about. I'm sure it was that he wasn't getting enough targets at that point in time. But to bump him like that physically, and then to get up in his face and scream at him like he did was a bad look for that man. very bad look, and he went way over the line. And I'm sure that those two get along and quote unquote love each other and did before the game. But hopefully he not only apologized to him publicly but in person, because it was not a good look for Chelsea and the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that, and I certainly hope that is true. I hope he definitely did apologize, and so that's good. I'm glad to hear that, and hopefully they can move on from that. But boy, you hate to see things like that happen, especially on camera when kids are watching and things like that. So,
Agreed.
yeah.
Absolutely. It's terrible look.
All right, Mike. I thought next we would do maybe a quick update. You and I cover altar basketball. We call the boys games together, and I call the girls games as well. Just thought we'd give a quick update on that. The boys have a couple more games. We will call their game on Friday and Saturday. They will wrap up their regular season and their GCL season as well. They need one of those two GCL games to win outright the GCL crown. And we called the game last night. The boys unfortunately lost to another high school here in town, Northmont, who is a Division I team. It was a great game, but I wanted to get your thoughts on that. One, they were defeated. It was a tough game. It was a good game. I thought maybe Northmont kind of showed some things maybe to you and the coaching staff that you need to work on, but just wanted to get your thoughts on that as the boys move forward.
Yeah, I did a cross check or compare and contrast of stats, theirs against ours, and really the glaring area was how poorly we shot the ball. 3 for 19 from threes. We weren't great from the 2-point range. They shot it overall 49% from the field overall. We were 28%. And when you look at the stats, that was the biggest difference.
Yeah.
We missed 3 or 4 really close in, almost like uncontested layup kinds of shots.
Yeah.
That if you make 1 or 2 of them, you're right. You probably win the game. We were 3 for 19 from 3. We're a 38% 3-point shooting team. If we make 1 or 2 of those, which is still significantly below our average, right, we win that game. And so,
and it really does come down to that, doesn't it, Mike?
It really does. I mean, you should credit Northmont's defense with the fact that we shot it poorly, but we also missed a lot of shots where we had really, really good looks that we normally knock down. And statistically, in every other area, we out-rebounded them. We were even in turnovers. They had a few more. They actually, I don't say dominated, but they scored a lot more points in the paint than we did. They hung in there. They were tough, well coached. They had some great wins this year. They beat the number 2 seed D1 team in Cincinnati Saturday night in Winton Woods. They beat Centerville this season. They beat us, the number 1 D2 seed in Dayton. So they're legit and very capable.
They're no slouch.
I wouldn't be surprised if they make a run. But we just struggled offensively, and we played well enough defensively to win that game. We just couldn't put it in the hole enough.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line.
Absolutely. Totally agree that they're a good team. We did not lose to a bad team last night. But the good thing is the Knights have a couple of more games. As I mentioned, they'll take on Baden Friday night and then CJ Saturday night. And then they'll head into the tournament. They will take on Greenville in the first round. And then whoever wins that ball game will take on either Thurgood Marshall or Springfield Shawnee.
Right.
And both of those games will be up in Springfield. So we'll get those covered. And Mike, just a quick update on the girls. They finished out their season defeating also Thurgood Marshall. They finished 20-2 on the season and 10-0 in the GCL. They are going to head up to Covington High School this Saturday and start their tournament run. They will take on Springfield Shawnee. And, no disrespect to this bracket at all, Mike, but I don't see the girls having any trouble getting through this district and moving on to the regionals. Now, the coaches
Yeah.
would not be happy with me saying that, but I think with how well they're playing right now, I look for them to really get rolling in this tournament. And I'll say hopefully, but I really believe that they're going to advance to the regionals out of this bracket.
Well, I mean, if all you know is that they're the defending D2 state champions, or actually they won it 2 years ago. They
2 years
lost
ago, yeah.
in the regionals last year, but they got everybody back from that game last year. And then they dropped down division. I think that's the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah, they did.
They dropped down. They dropped down division, which on paper means they're playing quote unquote easier competition. But that's really only good for the first 2 or 3 rounds. Eventually, you're going to run into
Absolutely
some really good. Yeah, you're eventually going to run into some really good teams at that level, and that's what's going to happen. And I don't know who it is they face first. It's in their target, I guess, in terms of a skill set. But they're going to hit somebody or two here pretty soon, and they're going to be challenged at one point, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And the bottom line is you got to be ready to play. I would predict that in the district final they could either meet Madeira or Cincinnati Country Day. That could certainly be a tough ball game, but I would expect, at least if you go by seeds and who you think might advance in that regional semifinal, they would either play Versailles or Waynesville. Now they did play Versailles this year and defeated them. It was a good ball game. It was fairly close, but Waynesville, I don't have their record in front of me. I believe they're undefeated, but they could face them in that regional semifinal. So it's going to get interesting, and definitely at some point you're gonna face a tough team, and that's obviously to be expected as you advance in the tournament.
Right, and getting back a scholarship player who by then hopefully has a game or two under her belt. That,
we hope.
Right, exactly. Yep.
All right, Mike. I kind of wanted to go ahead and move forward. This is something a little fun for you and I to do. But what I wanted to do maybe here is play a little what if, and maybe you could do that with Ohio State and I'll do it with Notre Dame. But I would say maybe go back no more than 30 years, 20, 30 years, but play a couple scenarios here. And, it's all fodder, certainly. You never know what would happen, but interesting to think about some of these things. But I'll go first. Maybe we'll just go back and forth, but I'll start first, Notre Dame. And my first one is what if Randy Moss didn't get into trouble before he was supposed to enroll at Notre Dame? He pled guilty to 2 counts of battery. He had a short stint at FSU. Lou Holtz and Bobby Bowden were buddies, and I think Holtz called Bowden and said, we can't take him here. Would you consider taking Randy Moss? And Bowden did, but he told Moss that you're coming in with 2 strikes, 1 more and you're out. And I don't know what he did at FSU, but he was unable to finish out at FSU and ended up going to Marshall. And he was absolutely fantastic, of course. He had 145 catches, 2,720 yards, and 44 TDs. He was the 21st overall pick in the 1998 NFL draft. And I think he had 14 years in the NFL. But, boy, and Lou Holtz is actually quoted saying that Randy Moss was the best recruit he had ever seen coming out of high school. I think personally, what if he would have gone to Notre Dame, I think they would have won a national championship. I think it would have revived Holtz's kind of career at Notre Dame. I think he would have been re-energized. I don't think he would have left in 1995. And I think Randy Moss would have won the Heisman Trophy at Notre Dame. Thoughts?
Yeah, that's well. I think all of that is absolutely possible. He was a freak athletically. He was a great basketball player in high school. And look at what he did when he was he's a Hall of Famer, right, in the NFL. So all of that is 100% possible, and it would have been something to see. Now, I don't remember, and I'm sure you do, who it would have been that was throwing him the ball. Could they have? Did they have a quarterback in the house back then? I can't
It would have
remember
been
for
Ron
sure.
Paulus. And I know
Okay.
people kind of, they kind of rip him up, but he was a good college quarterback. He did not have success in the NFL. He was very good in college. He wasn't a four-time Heisman winner like Bino Cook said he was going to be, but he was very good. And I think Randy Moss would have made Paulus even better.
Yeah, he could have. Yeah, I mean that's absolutely possible. I mean, Paulus was a good enough a college quarterback to have been able to make a difference with Moss and give him the kind of targets and stats he would have needed to be good enough to have
Yeah.
won the won the Heisman Trophy. I would think.
All right, Mike, why don't you give us one for Ohio State?
Yeah, let me think about it here for a minute. I think you mentioned it. What if back in 2011 it was okay to trade practice jerseys for tattoos, and Jim Tressel would not have left Ohio State. I mean, that was a blow. That was a major blow to them. And what if that had not happened? Now I know what happened the following year. Uh, they were really good. They brought on Urban Meyer. They went 12-0, 8-0 in the Big Ten, finished number 3 in the AP poll.
But couldn't go
But
to a
we're
bowl.
correct. We're
Yeah.
bowl ineligible, and it was in 2012 when that happened. The first full season, Urban Meyer was there. So I don't know. I mean, Tressel was a really really good coach. He took them to a national championship. Everybody loved him. The
Yeah.
whole fiasco with the tattoo gate and the, trading jerseys and all that stuff for tattoos was ridiculous. Nowadays, it's something that people just, you don't even hear about it, and they would just laugh at it if it came out,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Well, he was
So
crazy good coach, and he had Ohio State rolling. And yeah,
yeah,
Urban Meyer came in and did a fantastic job for Ohio State. But I tell you what, if Tressel was there much longer, I could definitely have seen Ohio State maybe not as big of a run as Alabama made, but I could have seen a pretty solid run from that point going forward by Tressel.
yeah. So there was that bumper year in there. So all that happened just prior to the 2011 season. And so Luke Fickle took over and coached that season. Then it was 2012 whenever Meyer came in. But the question is more about Tressel than it is about Luke Fickle or Urban Meyer and what would have happened had he been able to stay there. And they had some really good players. It forced Terrell Pryor out. He decided to leave and enter the NFL supplemental draft and didn't last too long in the pros. But he would have had another eligible year there, and I don't know. It would have been fun to see what would have happened had Tressel been allowed to stay and all those guys stayed as well. But it is what it is. Fickle made the best of it, parlayed that quote unquote season, that success he had into
Yeah.
a head coaching job, and then obviously Ohio State brought in Urban Meyer, and he got him another national championship. And but I missed Tress there for a couple of years. I liked him personally. It was a shameful thing that happened, but again, such a minor offense that it's laughable at this point in time.
Yeah, absolutely. And Mike, let's stay with Urban Meyer. What if Urban Meyer took the head coaching job at Notre Dame in 2005 instead of Charlie Weiss? Urban Meyer was the head coach at BG from 2001 through 2002. Then he went to
Mm-hmm.
Utah 2003, 2004. And then right then, Notre Dame fired Tyrone Willingham, and Florida was also looking for a coach. Now, I don't think anyone will definitely know, the bottom line truth about all this, but I have been told that Urban Meyer wanted the Notre Dame job, but Notre Dame at the time was unwilling to give him kind of the same uh, quote unquote opportunities, if you will, maybe two or three recruits that he could bring in that maybe didn't reach the qualifications that are required at Notre Dame. And Urban Meyer said, if you're not going to give me what you gave Holtz, I'm not going to take the job. So he took over at Florida, which turned out to be a great decision for him. Although, it depends on how you look at it. There were certainly some things that happened at Florida that were shady. But for the point of this discussion, what if Urban Meyer took the head coaching job at ND back in 2005?
Well, I think I'm reasonably sure he would have led them to a national championship.
I totally agree.
He's done it everywhere he's been, right? Obviously, tough to do that at Bowling Green or Utah, but went to Florida and did it twice.
Yeah. And let me interrupt you for a second, Mike. I have to say, this exercise made me so uncomfortable and squirming in my chair because, I understand the decisions that Notre Dame made with all this stuff, but oh my goodness, the decisions that have been made have just changed the course for the last 30 years for that football program.
Yeah, it absolutely has. They've not been America's team, I guess, like they were for so long there, and it's been tough road to hoe. Couple tough decisions in terms of coaching hires, especially after Lou Holtz, and it has. But hey, they're back. They're back with a Dayton native, and that should really make you happy.
I am. I think he's doing a phenomenal job. It's tough. It's tough to coach at Notre Dame just because of the pressure and all the responsibilities, but it's even more difficult when you have never been a head coach before and you're hired in. But I think, I think Freeman's doing a great job. I think he's learning what it requires to not only be a head coach, but a head coach in Notre Dame. And, so far he's doing a phenomenal job recruiting.
Yeah. Yeah, so far. This is going to be a big year for him. Not that he's on the hot seat or anything, but
no, I agree.
We've had this conversation multiple times. He's done what he's needed to do to kind of set the program up, and so now it's early, obviously only February, but time to deliver, right?
Absolutely. And I agree with you. I don't think he's on the hot seat, but I think for the program going forward, I think you need a very solid year. I think you need to make the playoffs if you want to continue to make that jump forward and become one of the elite programs, which everybody wants so badly in the Notre Dame nation. So yeah, I totally agree with you. I don't think he's necessarily on the hot seat, but I think he needs to take a step forward if he wants the program to take a step forward as far as becoming elite.
Okay, I agree.
So, Mike, totally. Bring up number 2 for Ohio State.
You're not gonna like this one.
Oh, Lord, help us.
Okay. What if Ohio State didn't score on that last play of the game against Notre Dame earlier this season?
You know what? That was on my top 5, but I had to leave it out. Yeah, I mean, there were so many plays in that game. If Devin Brown intercepts the pass on that last drive, if Notre Dame has 11 players on the field on that last drive, I mean, it was just crazy. There were so many plays. Even on, Notre Dame held Ohio State punted, and all Notre Dame had to do was run out the clock. And if they run the ball one more time, it basically does not leave Ohio State enough time. They tried to run a screen pass. I can't remember who it was from Ohio State, made a fantastic play and got a hand on that screen pass and knocked it down. If Notre Dame completes it, the game's over. But if you run the ball there, the likelihood that you win and Ohio State runs out of time is exponential.
But the question is, what if Ohio State doesn't score on that last play? What did that do? We all know. I mean, it kept Ohio State.
It's a great point.
So, I mean, it kept Ohio State in the conversation till the very end. I mean, they were number one off and on. all season really, and until they lost to Michigan. But what did it do to Notre Dame's season? What would have happened had they stopped Ohio State there on that last play?
Yeah, I think they go into the next week and they don't sleepwalk versus Duke. I think they win that one, and I think you win that one and you're riding high, and you go into Louisville with a lot more confidence, and you're not sleepwalking in those games like they were. But you're right. I mean, yeah, if Ohio State doesn't score, it totally changes the whole trajectory of that season for Notre Dame.
Yep.
Without a doubt.
And Ohio State still, I mean, who knows where they would have ended up at the very end there. If they had that loss, the Michigan game might not have mattered as far as them having a chance to get into the Final Four, right? So it kept them relevant, and it kept them in the conversation right up to the very last weekend.
Yeah, that was a good one, Mike, and that one made me squirm too. I even thought about that. I kind of brought up that individual play when Devin Brown missed the interception, because if he catches that, it was a difficult catch, but he should have had it. If he intercepts that, game's over. But I said it a while back when we had a show right after that ball game. Ohio State's a program. They've been there. They've done that. They find ways to win. Notre Dame is not there yet, and it played out again.
Yep.
All right, Mike, we could go on forever with those, I think. Maybe we'll do another show on that someday, but I thought we would jump in to a little yes, no, maybe before we wrap up the show for tonight. And again, I got my partner, Mike Freshwater, on the phone with us, folks. But first statement tonight, Mike, yes, no, maybe. Tom Brady is the greatest of all time as far as QBs in the NFL.
Yes, for now. And we just talked about it to start the beginning here, and I think Mahomes is on his path, on the path essentially to surpass the GOAT TB12. I do think that's in the cards for him if he stays healthy, and the Chiefs continue to spend the money and are smart about their drafting, and then smart about the free agents. Do a good job of building a team around him. It's a yes, but it's a for now scenario, because I think Holmes is creeping up on him slowly but surely.
I agree with you. However, I'm going to throw another name in here, and I still think Joe Montana is equal to Brady, if not.
Where did he go to college?
He went to Notre Dame. I know I got my biased hat on. But, man, I got to put Joe in there. I mean, he was so good.
Yeah.
And, it's hard to argue with Brady. I mean, the success is there. It's right in front of you. But as far as what a quarterback can do, I thought Joe had it all. I thought he had the ability to kind of create a play a little bit more than Brady. But, that's splitting hairs. And I also agree totally with you that before this is all said and done, at least as far as you and I are around, I think Mahomes may take that spot eventually, especially if he continues on the trajectory that he's on right now.
Yeah, the best quarterback to never have won the Super Bowl is Dan Marino. I saw a lot of him when I lived down in South Florida in person. And I've seen Brady a couple times in person, but I saw a lot of Dan Marino down there. And that dude was a bitch.
Yeah.
He threw the ball. He got rid of it so fast.
He did.
Threw it on a rope. These guys he's throwing it way before they even break their patterns. I mean, he was just incredible. And it was a perfect example of and kind of an example of just a guy who wasn't, quote unquote, lucky enough to have the right people around him to get him to where he needed to be. I mean, the quarterback doesn't play defense, right? And so, but man, that dude was he was unbelievable. In person for sure, I never seen anybody throw the ball like that guy. Man, he was incredible, and loved watching him play. Dan Marino, he was super.
Absolutely. All right, Mike, second statement. And we've kind of gone over this. That's why earlier in the show I said we'd go over it again. But With their third Super Bowl victory in the last 5 years, the Kansas City Chiefs are now a dynasty.
Yeah, for that conversation this week, and I don't know what the definition of a dynasty is,
Yeah.
but I will say yes for sure if they win it again next year. I don't know what a dynasty is. I feel like New England was a dynasty when Brady was there. I mean, they were always there, right? They were always. The Chiefs are approaching that. So to me, it's again, for me, I would agree. If they just get it to the Super Bowl next year, I'm going to go with a yes. But right now, I'm going to say they are a burgeoning. Is that the right word? Dynasty.
I think so.
They are. Yeah. I mean, that's it's kind of an opinion thing, and but if they're not, they're really really close.
I agree. I'm going to have to say maybe yes with an asterisk, and if they win another one, you can take that asterisk off. But I think they're definitely, if not there, they're heading in that direction certainly. And boy, go ahead.
As Bengals and Browns fans, we're just screwed because everything goes through Patrick Mahomes. I mean, what are we going to do?
Yeah. Well, and it kind of leads me into the third yes, no, maybe, but you kind of answered that or swerved into it a little bit, but Joe Burrow is the only quarterback that can beat Pat Mahomes.
I mean, I still think Lamar Jackson is an outstanding quarterback. He's the MVP in the whole league for the whole season, and I think he can do it. But Burrow's proven he can do it. So I think those two guys right now are the two guys that have the best chance of doing it again. Burrow's got to stay healthy.
Yeah.
I mean, two seasons now he's lost basically because of injury, and it's just it's killed him. And but he's proven he can do it. So I'm going to go with Burrow 1A and Lamar Jackson 1B.
Yeah, you absolutely took the words right out of my mouth. He's got to stay healthy, and I think Burrow can beat him. I think right now Mahomes is a little bit better. I don't know how you can argue that. I mean, he's won all 3 Super Bowls already. I think Mahomes is so good, and we talked about it earlier, that he just makes everybody around him better. I think Burrow can do it, but he's got to prove it, and he's got to stay healthy on the field.
Yep. Burrowhead Stadium, my ass.
Jabroni.
Jabroni.
All right, Mike. Final one before we wrap up the show for today. And this is a good one. Tiger Woods is the greatest golfer of all time.
Oh, well, that's...
yeah.
I am such a Jack Nicklaus fan.
Oh, yes.
And he has more majors than Tiger. Tiger has more tournament championships, but Jack still has the major record.
Yes.
And Jack is a Columbus guy, an Ohio State guy, and I've been a fan of his for so long.
So have I.
I'm going with Jack, man. I'm going to say no to your question.
You know what, Mike? I am too. And again, this one's really splitting hairs, but for 1 year, I think it was the year 2000, Tiger Woods had 9 wins. He won that U.S. Open by 15 strokes. It was ridiculous. Yeah. It was out at Pebble Beach, I believe. He won the Open, and he won the last 3 majors. That year, he was without a doubt the GOAT. But I think career-wise, I think you still have to leave Nicklaus at the top. Again, it might be 1A, 1B, because it's hard to argue. I mean, Woods was so phenomenal for so long.
Yeah.
Was considered the number 1 player in the country for a ridiculous amount of weeks. But career-wise, I'm going to have to leave the Golden Bear at the top.
Yeah. And the equipment that Jack Nicklaus played with back in his prime was just so archaic compared to what they're playing with, what Tiger was playing with his whole career, really. And Tiger's health is just obviously caused him a lot of trouble. But I'm going with Jack, and Loved him. Obviously big Ohio guy, and so kind of hard for somebody to convince me. It's the LeBron James, Michael Jordan question, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's 1A and 1B, and everybody's going to have their own opinion on it. Nobody's probably wrong if they're picking either one of those two guys. And love the Golden Bear. Love him. I loved Arnie, but I love the Golden Bear.
Yeah, I'm going to go with you on that one. And that is definitely one where I would love to have a time machine, Mike, and send the Golden Bear back, back to his youth and have him go head to head with Tiger. That would have been fun, I think, especially as you mentioned, if the equipment was on an equal level.
Yeah, I'd like to see Tiger, and he would do okay, but I'd like to see Tiger play with those persimmon woods and those metal shafts. Right?
Yeah. Well, Mike, I appreciate you joining me midweek here for a special edition of Gamecast Radio Sports Talk. Again, folks, we will not have a show this weekend. Mike and I have a little bit too much going on, but we'll be back with you the following Saturday. So enjoy the sports this week. Mike, I'll see you on Friday night. And have a great weekend, everybody, and we'll see you next time on Gamecast Radio Sports Talk.
So long, everybody.